Here we go, my friends. The third flight of the Mini 3 Pro. That is, if we can get out all these clouds. Whoop. Don't know what happened there. Lost something. But we'll leave that little glitch in there. And as you can see, we're up about, I don't know, 150, 200 feet. Taking her out for a short ride. We're headed south. It was about 87 degrees when this was filmed. Now, before we went out, we did the latest updates, firmware updates on the controller and the bird itself. And she took the firmware updates like a champ, but when I launched, part that you didn't see was when I first got up in the air, I had no left rudder. I could spin the quad to the right, but I had no left stick. It would not spin to the left at all. So I had to bring it back and land it twice. And also, I got no Homepoint update confirmation when I took off. I did that twice with no Homepoint update, and I finally had to come back in and update the Homepoint manually. So I don't know if these are bugs in the new firmware or not, but she never did this before. So after I got that taken care of, I got out and about and got her up in the air, updated the Homepoint myself manually, and took off. By the time I'd done that, I'd used up 10-15% of my battery fooling around with it. So I got out there and got down to, I don't know, probably about 53%, somewhere in there, maybe lower than that, maybe around 49, 50%, and brought her back home and made it home, but didn't have that much battery left. I probably had about 20% when I got back home. So lesson learned, when you're updating stuff like that in the field, make sure that you give your battery a little more juice and time to charge, because if you don't, you could get in a world of doo-doo pretty quick. So we're flying south now. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe 8:30, quarter to 9, somewhere in there. The wind, I'm flying due south, and the wind is blowing. I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm flying due north. The wind is blowing from the southwest. So I'm flying with the wind going out, which was another thing I usually don't do, but I had thought I had plenty of battery, and the fooling around with it, trying to get the Homepoint to update and trying to get the quadcopter to actually turn in the air, took up more battery than I thought. That was weird, man. I could turn to the right. I'm glad I caught that before I flew out too far. But could not turn to the left at all. Man, that could have been trouble. So anyway, I got that all updated, but I did use quite a bit of my battery up. So did not get to fly as far as I wanted to, but a real pretty flight. She's, like I said, she's flying kind of with the wind at her back and to the right. So when I got out to where I was at 49, 50% on the battery and decided, well, I need to come back, I was flying into the wind with the wind blowing from my back and to my right side. So you got to take that into account, that's for sure. I usually don't fly out with the wind because it's just bad things happen when I do that. But didn't happen this time, but cut it a little too close. Wasn't bad. I still had, like I said, probably 20% left. Maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I don't quite remember what it was. Anyway, we're flying over some power lines here, and there's a big soccer field, I think, here to the left, where they play soccer at. Kids, there's nobody out there today. I guess it's getting hot enough to where they're not really doing much practicing or playing in this kind of heat. It's been averaging between 95 and 100 degrees here every day for the last week, week and a half with no rain. So, been pretty hot. So I decided I would take the better half with me and we'd go out and fly early this morning before it got too bad. Now, I will tell you one thing. I did the update, and on the screen recording, it has increased it from 720 to 960, something like that. So not quite HD, but not too bad on the screen recording. So it's kind of a weird number. I don't know why they couldn't go to 1080p, but it's 960 by 5 something or something like that. Really strange number. Okay, I've turned around. I've said, well, I didn't realize my battery was that low. I thought I had more than that, but horsing around beforehand, and it wasn't really my fault. It was just trying to get everything squared away with the Mini 3 not wanting to turn to the left and not wanting to update the Homepoint. You know, I got no verbal confirmation of that twice. So I ended up taking off 3 times before I was comfortable enough to where I knew she was going to do what she needed to do. I think maybe the upgrade of the firmware might have something to do with that. But one good thing about that is it did seem to cool it off when charging, sitting there charging the battery in the drone or having it sitting there doing the updates rather. It wasn't near as hot as it usually is after that update when I went back in and had it hooked up and was fooling with it for quite a while without it running. So they seem to have got a grip on that overheating problem or the getting real hot while you're doing updates and when you're not flying. It seems much better. That, and they did have an update on the firmware where it actually, when it starts up, it gives you a little warning box that tells you that it's turning off your Blu-ray and your Wi-Fi connection. So it says if you need that, you can turn it back on manually, but it says to cut down on interference, it's turning it off. And I must say one thing. I had no glitches all the way out and all the way back. In fact, I was at 4 or 5 bars, white bars, all the way out and back. And I probably could have gone much further if the battery hadn't been so low and I was flying back into the wind and I didn't want to chance that. So, but my reception was fantastic. Didn't lose a bar. Very strange, but just about this reception this time was as good as my Mini 2 does. My Mini 2 is the king of reception and signal strength. It does really, really, really well. So the upgrade seems to have done some good. Now, if you'll notice, the horizon is just cantered a little bit to the right there. And I think that's because I'm flying into the wind and I've got the wind blowing me. It's blowing on the front left of the quad. So there, see, now it's kind of straightening out a little bit as I'm just shifting the quad ever so slightly. There it goes. It's a little bit better. It's still tiny a little bit, but much better than it was. The wind seems to really affect this and the Mini 2. The Mini 2 especially, boy, I start flying kind of sideways. It gets cockeyed. The gimbal gets cockeyed on that, but it's much better on this one. So I'm on the way back. As you can see, I'm just flying basically over a very rural area. I fly over this area quite a bit and seem to have good range, good reception. Didn't look too much at the trails this time. I usually like looking at the deer trails and stuff like that. This was more of a test to see how the firmware was. And other than the glitch at first, taken off with no Homepoint update, and the quad not turning to the left, that was the weirdest thing. I've never experienced that before. Other than that, you know, she did great. And once I brought her down, after I took off a couple times and I had to re-land her and everything, she straightened out. So I don't know what that was, some kind of glitch. It had never done that until I updated the firmware, though, yesterday. So we're coming back into the Homepoint now. Good steady flight. The camera on the Mini 3 is just, you know, it's just done a really, really good job. I mean, you couldn't ask any more for a camera with this type of f-stop and everything else that it has. I mean, it does really, really well. It does, in my opinion, as good as the Nano Plus. It is not near as sharp and contrasty as the Nano Plus. I mean, I think that is actually, I like this picture on the Mini 3 better because the other one just seems like it has way too much contrast in it, you know, and the picture is over sharpened, where the Mini 3 is not by any stretch of the imagination. So anyway, we're coming back in. Yeah, there's two people. Ignore them people behind the curtain, as they say in The Wizard of Oz. They're just sitting there watching. I don't know who those two people are. Anyway, starting to pick up some ground sensing on the obstacle avoidance. And I probably should have turned off the obstacle avoidance before I flew, and I didn't think of that either. And I think that tends to eat up the battery when that's on too. So it's just another thing that you can turn off, you know, and shooting. I shot this at 4K, 4K 30. So, you know, if I was shooting in 2.7 or 1080p, probably would have saved a little processing power and battery power there also. But, boy, you just can't beat the picture in 4K. Just beautiful. Anyway, we're back at the start line. So I want to thank everybody for watching the video. And we'll get a chance. We'll take the Mini 2 out maybe next time. She, Peggy Sue, is getting awful lonely. I haven't flown her for a while, but we'll get her out. Okay, she's coming in. She's saying, I think I will land this time. Everybody stay safe out there. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great day.